I did it. I finally picked up Anna Karenina, and I am tackling my fear of big chunky books. The thing is, I have a hard time coming up with reading lists for myself because my reading mood changes a lot from one book to the next. So I might be done reading contemporary fiction, and next I am in the mood for fantasy, and next I am in the mood for non-fiction, and so on. So I can't really predict what I will be in the mood to read. So what I usually do is just try reading the first chapter of any of the books that I have pending, and then I try to see if the writing is pulling me into the story. And to my surprise, Anna Karenina is doing this really well right now. Okay, I should backtrack a little bit here. The truth is I would not have picked this book had it not been for A Swimming Upon in the Rain by George Saunders. And I think I have already mentioned that book at least twice in my channel, so I want to tell you a little bit more about it. So, A Swimming Upon in the Rain is a non-fiction book by George Saunders, who's also a professor at Syracuse University, where he teaches creative writing. And what he tries to do in his book is convert his classes into book format, so to speak. But that sounds a bit dry as a selling point. This is not a reference book, it's much more than that. This author, George Saunders, is heavily influenced by Russian writers, and in this book he tries to explain how these Russian writers tackle the big topics of literature, but also he tries to explain what makes a great story and what makes us readers compelled to read the story. There is this quote about literary criticism that has stuck with me. A story is a series of incremental pulses, each of which does something to us. Each puts us in a new place relative to where we just were. Criticism is not some inscrutable, mysterious process. It's just a matter of 1, noticing ourselves, responding to a work of art moment by moment, and 2, getting better at articulating that response. So to paraphrase, he proposes that all work begins with a genuine reaction. And so when we read a book, we should ask ourselves, how does reading this book make me feel? So in essence, that's what I try to answer every time that I read a book, or almost every time. The truth is, I have never been super consistent in keeping track of what I read, and that's okay. You know, sometimes reading for fun means that you just let a story wash over you, but I also find value in recording my impressions during and after reading a book, because I also tend to forget very easily, too easily. And so I think that the more that I record my thoughts, the better that I will get at articulating my thoughts and cross-referencing different works. So the essence of criticism or literary review is not a data dump. It's about recording your genuine reactions to a work of fiction or non-fiction. And besides doing that, I also try to pick apart its themes. And to do that, I try to list questions that I come up with as I read. For instance, what do these characters have in common? What separates and unites them? So this is a very character-driven story where the narrator is constantly inviting the reader into each of these characters' minds. It's as if Tolstoy is trying to make us empathize with all of them, no matter how flawed they really are. And I wonder if there is a reason for that. I find myself constantly changing my opinion and my perspective on these characters from chapter to chapter, and then I react to that with some skepticism. I think I don't really trust any of these characters, and the reason for that is in one of the themes that I think this book has, or at least in the first part that I read. So far, in the first part, I think there is this overarching theme of deception. So there is this big rift between what characters truly feel and what their perception of themselves is in society. We have Oblonsky, and he has cheated on his wife, but he still considers himself to be a benevolent man, and that is because he believes that love cannot be forced, and so he is not really to blame for the fact that he cannot love his wife anymore. Or that's how his logic works anyway. You know, we can always give him the benefit of the doubt as to whether he's aware that he's lying to himself or not, but I think he's a hypocrite. Then we also have Dolly, his wife, who also deceives herself in thinking that she can leave her husband. And the narrator also points out these inconsistencies in her body language. So, for instance, she is trying to come across as stern and determined, but her look is that of perplexity and suffering. And this is something that we are going to see again and again in each and every one of these characters. Later on, we have Anna, who's trying to deceive herself in thinking that she's not really attracted to Vronsky. And then we also have Kitty, who, in the face of being rejected or ignored by Vronsky, she falls into this state of despair, and she cannot really bring herself to admit that part of the reason why she's feeling like that, it's not because Vronsky has ignored her, but also because she has rejected Levin before. There is also this interesting conversation that happens between Oblonsky and Levin at the beginning of the book. They are discussing this idea of lust versus platonic love, and there is this uprising in Levin as he realizes that his idea of platonic love is about to be crumbled in the face of rejection. And so there is this sentence that Oblonsky says that I think fits perfectly with each and every one of these characters. You have a consistent character yourself, and you wish all the facts of life to be consistent, but they never are. So again, it's this idea of this perception of self versus reality, and it's something that we are gonna see again and again in these characters. So for sure, we readers respond to different kinds of writing at different points in our lives. I don't know if this story would have resonated with me had it not been for the introduction that I had to Russian classics by way of George Saunders, but for now I can say that the delusion that these characters are going through is mostly what is pulling me in. I think I probably expect some sort of redeeming quality in them, and I'm just curious to see where the journey takes them. So these are my thoughts for the first part of the book. I finished the first part the other day and then realized that there are 7 parts, so I still have quite a bit of that journey left, but that's okay, I'm enjoying it. Anyway, obvious disclaimer, I am no literary critic, nor have I formally studied these Russian authors, and I might be wrong in my views here, but that's part of the point that I want to make with this video. There is sometimes this fear or even snobbery surrounding the classics, whether you have read them or not. But at the end of the day, there is really no required skill set to sit down and enjoy these books for what they are. That's it from me today. As usual, thank you for watching. Let me know if you like this kind of video, and also if you've read any of these books in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.